We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
This is Long Shots, VSiN's premier golf betting podcast. Here's Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, and Kelley Bydlon.
Hey, it is Long Shots Golf Betting Podcast here on the VSiN Podcast Network. I am Matt Brown. That is Wes Reynolds. That is Kelley Bydlon, and a big kudos to both of those guys. Let's go ahead and just do a quick little flashback to last week.
Cameron Young, I think, is one that you got to be willing to play here and not try to hit so many bombs in a field that I think that there's a clear gap between some of the top guys and even some of the middle guys. So Cameron Young is one that I have played.
I'm right there. I'm right back there with you, my friend, on Cameron Young. So started my card there. It's not going to be much in the outright. So him in the outright market, and then probably winner without. Want to see where that number goes.
I know both of y'all are on Cam Young. I wanted to be on Cam Young. He is second in the model, obviously, to Scottie. I mean, like he's basically been the second best player in the world to Scottie, at least in this field anyway. I just couldn't get it. Maybe I'm snake bit a little bit from the Masters as well, where it's just like he didn't go get it when it was there for the taking, and I don't know if that's still in the back of my mind. And yeah, unfortunately, that was that's me saying that I wanted to be on Cam Young, but the price wasn't good enough. Well, guess what? The price was good enough for Wes Reynolds and Kelley Bydlon, and they both cashed outright tickets here. Hopefully you guys did as well. I sat from afar and just cried every evening as he ran away with the tournament. My one thought here might be that Cam Young's playing the best golf in the world. Yes, Scottie Scheffler with another ridiculously good finish. Again, if that's a slump, then, sign me up for it. But Cam Young might be the best player in the world right now. Kelley Bydlon, one thought from last week.
Yeah, man, he's playing right up there. I mean, really big thought. You just said it about Cam Young, might be playing the best in the world, but oh man, and this is going to carry over to the conversation with the Truist this week. You've got a group of guys right now that I think you could say that about several players on the PGA Tour. And it really, I think, tip of the cap to guys like Cameron Young, Matt Fitzpatrick, that have even put themselves into that conversation. I think even playing better. I mean, we were high on but those two specifically, seemingly all three of us heading into this year. And for most of the beginning of the season, wasn't expecting these type of results, to be honest.
Wes Reynolds, your one takeaway from last week.
Well, I'll split it up into two. Number one, Matt, don't beat yourself up too much because Cameron Young is apparently the only guy I can hit this PGA Tour season. He's the only guy I guess I've got figured out. It's just like, let's figure out the other 150 plus players on the tour. But I think what you're seeing right now, there is kind of a clear separation just based on what we've seen the first 4 months of the season in terms of the top four on the PGA Tour, in whatever order you want to put them in. Cameron Young, Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Matt Fitzpatrick. And then there's those couple lurkers that we're waiting to see them kind of go off and put one on the board this season. Xander Schauffele, Ludvig Åberg, guys that have played really good golf, but just haven't been able to get over the finish line. So maybe this will be the week down at the Truist, or next week, perhaps at the PGA Championship up at Aronimink. But there is kind of a clear line of demarcation between the top four, I think, right now.
We head back to Charlotte this week for the Truist, and the odds board is, as you would expect in an event without Scottie Scheffler, it's going to be Rory McIlroy at the top. He comes back this week after taking last week off. Anywhere between mid fives up to 6 is about the best you're going to get in the market out there on Rory McIlroy. Cam Young, after the way that he has been playing and the win last week, is your second shot on the board. And if I didn't like him last week at 11, boy, I'm going to love him at 9 this week with that, I guess. But yes, Cam Young coming in about 859, something like that out there in the market. Xander Schauffele returns this week as well. He kind of cracks the double digits there, 10, 11-ish out there in the market. Matt Fitzpatrick is back this week too. He's kind of anywhere between 13 and 14, 15, 16, something like that out there in the market.
Wow.
Ludvig, Siwoo, Tommy Fleetwood, Adam Scott, Patrick Cantlay, Sam Burns, Ricky Fowler, on and on and on. That's when you start to get into kind of the 18, 19, 20s, and then even further into the odds. And of course, we'll talk about these guys over the course of the show as well. But Wes, let's go ahead and get into the course here. Obviously one that we are familiar with in various fashions, whether it be hosting a major championship or hosting this event or by a different name and all of that. But definitely a course that we do have some history with.
Yeah, we certainly do. And probably most of our audience recognize this more as the Wells Fargo Championship. It is now the Truist Championship. That sponsorship started last season. However, this event was not played at its usual site in Quail Hollow down there in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was played in Philadelphia last year. So keep that in mind when you're looking at any data here. But long relationship here at Quail Hollow. Quail Hollow had the PGA, by the way, last year. Tom Fazio, the designer, several renovations. Par 71, 75-21 was for tournament golf, and it's actually about 75-93 on the official scorecard this week. But par 72 still for the members. A long course, as you might imagine, by those yardages. Third longest on the PGA Tour, seventh toughest last year, and even a little bit tougher with it being a major championship. So what the renovations entailed, basically, it's Bermuda throughout in terms of the surface, but there is a rye overseed and Poa Trib overseed on the greens here. Fairway is about 33 yards on average, so not a lot of trouble in terms of the rough. It only measures about a little over 2 inches, so you can kind of grip it and rip it a little bit around here. I think the most difficult things when I was doing my research about this course are probably the greens in terms of how fast that they are. They're relatively large, about 6,500 square feet on average, but they play firm. They'll get tougher on the weekend. They're fast. There's a lot of like false fronts and runoffs around the greens. So you can find some trouble here. You got water in play on 6 holes, 61 bunkers on the course, but it's still what you think, a typical Carolina tree line design. So, you want to try to keep it straight as much as you can, even though the rough is not all that big. But 75, 83, par 71, 3 par 5s, 1 on the front, 2 on the back. So kind of profile similar like some of the longer courses on tour, Torrey Pines, Bay Hill, Muirfield Village, Riviera, Bethpage Black, some of the other courses that have hosted PGA Championships, which of course is next week. So if you want to look at some comparative or correlation type things, look at those courses, I think, to see who may succeed here at Quail Hollow this week.
Kelley, we look at the odds board right now. One name not on there, one name still on there, at least as of this recording. Colin Morikawa does withdraw on Monday. We've been wondering about that back of his. He looked horrible, but the results were actually showing up. The results did not show up last week, and he withdraws this week. Jake Knapp withdraws last week, but he is at least currently still out there on the odds board. Somebody that, again, in normal circumstances, I probably would be very, very interested in, but going to be tough for me to click the button this week on him, given his withdrawal last week.
Yeah, I'm going to guess this is more of an issue and a topic on this podcast and most other golf betting podcasts you're going to listen to. But yeah, Knapp is interesting this week, right? Rates out very highly for me. We're going to get into stats and everything coming up, but rates out very highly for me. But I don't really know that I can touch that right now. And then what are his status? Colin Morikawa's status as we head into next week in another major. You would think both of them have that and being ready for that as the greatest priority. But, you get these signature events leading into it. There's a lot of money on the line. So definitely two things to be keeping our eye on both this week and as we head into next week with those two guys.
Now, while we're not in Florida, it is still weather for us to look at here in this one. Thursday could be interesting. So keep your eye on different waves if you want to try and track all of that. First round leader bets, of course, that will come in play as well. We do the best we can to kind of give you what we see here. Kelley, if you're watching us over on the YouTube page, or by the way, hello, if you're watching us on YouTube TV over on the network, the VSiN Watch app, appreciate you guys being with us here for that. Look, Kelley, there could be some precipitation there on Thursday as it shows on the on your screen right there. And then, Wind not looking to be too incredibly penal here. I mean, yeah, there are gusts and things like that, but as far as like the steady wind, it looks like we're going to be in the single digits, so nothing that we're going to be sweating here from a handicapping perspective.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this has changed. As we always warn with that weather, make sure you're checking in. If you are concerned about it, make sure you're checking into this often. And, unlike us, you're not forced to get your pets in any earlier than right before tee off, so you can wait as long as you want. But this is much calmer than when I actually looked at this yesterday. This was a little bit definitely heavier winds in the forecast when I was looking at this yesterday for Thursday and Friday. So it looks like things have calmed down a little bit right now.
Yeah, it's I think if anything, it's just we see there's a little bit of stuff that could hit there on Thursday. Definitely take a look at that. Maybe there will be some wave advantage and stuff somewhere along the way. If you're wondering what that wave advantage might be, it kind of depends on the timing of the rain, but it seems like there's going to be early morning rain and maybe something there like mid-morning. If that's the case, the afternoon wave certainly going to get soft conditions out there. They might be able to fire at these pins a little bit better than the people early on. So again, we're doing this on a Tuesday. So this is something that you're going to need to monitor all the way up until first tee with all of this. The Green Mile, hole 16, 17, 18, you'll hear about on this course, and certainly something that will come into play whenever we are looking there and round on Sunday, trying to figure out who was going to win this thing, because the Green Mile will certainly come into play there on that one as well. Each and every week we go through and we create models, the stats that matter and all of that. We are going to give you all of that breakdown. We're not coders. We're just sitting here using the great work of other people out there, putting in the stats that matter to us and weighting them accordingly. And that's how we come up with where we are going to be. If you're watching this again over on YouTube TV, if you're watching us on the VSiN Watch app, hello, welcome. Appreciate you being here over on the audio side and over on YouTube as well. Please subscribe, rate, review, all of those good things to help us climb up the charts. And you can continue to hopefully hit outrights like Kelley and Wes do with all of this. So when we come back, get to those stats that matter, what the models popped out, and we'll start to getting some bets here from Wes Reynolds.
We have the tech to get food delivered in 15 minutes, but we all have horror stories about buying tickets. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage. Get amazing tickets in just a few taps. Fees are included, so what you see is what you pay. And the Game Time guarantee means authentic tickets at the best price every time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets to concerts, sports, comedy, and more with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
Okay, got through how this course looks, at least on the surface. We'll see if weather comes into play here and makes us have to handicap this thing a little bit differently, closer to first tee on Thursday. But as we said, every single week we go through and we make models, and these models are awesome skeletons that are made by other people out there. Again, shout out to Rick Rungood, shout out to Betsperk, shout out to Data Golf, shout out to any of those other sites that you're using out there. But we do take the stats and plug those in, the ones that we want to factor into the model. We put the time frame, we put the weighting to how much each stat plays into the final formula. And then with that, we'll take that and go to the betting board and see if the odds are anything that we want to put into the account. So Wes, let's get going here. And obviously a super long course that might, depending on the weather, play even longer if we're not going to get rollout and these are soft conditions and all of that. I can only imagine you, like me, are pretty keen on driving distance this week.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. Of course, most weeks we're going to start with strokes gain approach, obviously your iron play, greens and regulation rate. Despite the fact that the greens are a little bit bigger than average that you would see on the PGA Tour from course to course, only a little over 60%. So you still got to be pretty precise with your irons. Of course, the last two winners here at Quail Hollow for this event, Rory McIlroy and Wyndham Clark, ranked 4th and 1st, respectively, for strokes gained approach during their winning week. So I think you got to do that. But you hit it, Matt. Driving distance here. There's not a lot of penalty for missing fairways. The rough is not going to be, by the way, as thick here for the Truist as it was for the PGA Championship when it was here last year. So it's driver heavy, and you can just look at the scorecard here, and I have one in the article up at VSiN.com where you have not only the par fives, but you got 4 par fours that are 490 or longer, and you've got 2 perhaps drivable par fours, number 8, number 14, kind of about mid 340-ish range. So some players are going to be going for it there and trying to drive the green in one. So driving distance, I think, very important here. Back to approach in terms of the proximity, you're going to be looking 175 to 200 or 200 plus. You're going to have a lot of irons here. You're not going to have a wedge fest with the big boy golf course at over 7,600 yards, at least at some point over the weekend. Strokes gained par 4, 450 to 500. I mentioned how long some of these par 4s are. 7 of the 11 par 4s are in that range. So I thought that was at least an interesting stat to look at this week. I did a little bit around the green just because you do have those shaved runoff areas and you do have those false fronts. So with these firm greens, even though, it hasn't had a lot of weather, it's going to maybe have some a little bit Thursday, as we pointed out earlier. So some of these good approaches may not hold the green. So you're going to have your scrambling in shape a little bit. So I use those. Also, bogey avoidance. I think this is one of the more difficult layouts, even though it is scoreable. If you look at previous winners here, you've seen mid to high double digits under par. So you can certainly score here. But I do think that they want to make it a little bit tougher just because it's the week before major championship. So you will see bogeys pile up here. And then with the greens not being easy to hit and the putting surfaces, I think, being the most challenging of anything here at Quail Hollow, difficult to gain strokes putting. So it's got one of the highest 3-putt percentages on tour. So 3-putt avoidance. Strokes gain putting, I went kind of general here because even though these greens are kind of like Bermuda base, they're overseeded with POA because it hasn't been warm enough yet in the southeast. It's starting to, but the Bermuda, some of that is still a little bit dormant. So you still see a lot of POA overseed, I think, in some of these courses down in the southeast. And that's what I put together and used this week.
Kelley, I imagine driving distance for you as well played a big role in your model. How heavy did you go on that? I mean, if you kind of look at the layout of this course, right? And we live in a different age from even 5-6 years ago, right? I mean, you can go in and look at every single hole, like from a 3D view and all this stuff like that. And you can kind of see just how much this is going to favor these longer hitters. They're going to be able to clear a lot of the trouble that some of the shorter hitters are not. And the problem is some of the shorter hitters are going to really have a conundrum, in my opinion here. And I'd like to hear your thoughts as well, because their typical drive distance is right exactly where the trouble is. So it's almost like they're either going to have to try to thread the needle, or they're going to have to take less than driver off of the tee, which then puts them way back with these super long approaches. I'm not going to say I completely just whittled out every single short hitter from contention for me this week, but I can put it this way. I'm looking down my list. I don't have any short hitters on my list this week.
That's, you know what, Matt? I went with that same attitude last week and this week, and wasn't going to try to rule out anybody. We talk about how impressive it is when some of the guys, if we weight distance so heavily, if they're a shorter hitter and they still rate out pretty highly for us, how impressive that means the rest of their game is with things that we weighted into our models. So I'm right there with you. I'm looking at my card though, and I do not have any short guys there as well. So I'm going to start at the green though, real quick. Hey, Wes hit on it. This is it. Quail Hollow. This is a major level golf course. This is test every club in the bag. It is going to be tough to putt on. These are going to be firm greens. And when we talk about those approaches then coming in, right? It's twofold with distance off the tee. The further you can get up, drive the ball, gives you a higher lofted approach shot coming into some firm greens, right? So I think that's another reason why you're looking at guys with long distance off the tee. But greens are they're not easy to putt on. Around the green play here is not easy by any means, but as far as how did I weight those compared to the ball striking stats off the tee and approach, it's way less. I think it is important this week, but still the approach, and especially long approach play, we see about half your shots are going to come from over 175 yards and or longer into these greens on approach. And then, you broke down the driving there perfectly, Matt. I think with some of the bunker trouble that you're going to encounter, we've got some really, really accurate guys off the tee that I think could survive this week and are strong long iron players like a Tommy Fleetwood, like a Siwoo Kim. I don't think those guys are completely out of it by any means, but that distance for multiple reasons, both on the approach and avoiding those hazards off the tee, just gives you that much more that much more of benefit, that much more help when you're attacking this golf course. So yeah, look, I did weigh that stuff very heavily. The proximity ranges I mentioned, par 5 scoring, only 3 of them this week, but still you're looking at those being kind of the most scoreable holes on the golf course. And then it's kind of survived the par 4s and par 3s. So if you are plugging in those proximity ranges, that kind of covers the par 3s. It's a little bit of a cheat code that I use usually when par 3s do come into play. So yeah, that was all everything I plugged in around the green, a little bit around the green, scrambling and some putting, and then just kind of a blend of course history and how guys play on long courses and hard courses, I think is important this week.
Yeah, I did long courses, did hard courses. Both of those played into mine as well. Pretty much outside of that, just approach putt. Just I'm trying to keep guys from 3-putting, but outside of that, pretty much exactly what you guys said. So Wes, we threw in this stuff. The models started to spit some things out. Where did you end up on your card?
Yeah, and I should be sticking with Cameron Young because he's been good to me, or going with Rory McIlroy, who has won here 4 times, and it is his 37th birthday this week. So if you like to play those little kind of outside angles, that might be one to look at. But I didn't start with either of them. I started with Xander Schauffele, who you can get in the 11-ish to 1. He was close to 12 to 1 earlier in the week. He's been runner up here actually the last 2 times for the Truist, in 23 and 24, 4 top 10s last 6 starts. Thus far, I think he's seen a lot of the other elite. I mentioned that line of demarcation with the top 4. He's seen all the elite players win, and he hadn't been able to get home. But this is the time of year where we start to see Xander kind of figure it out. He's usually not great on the West Coast swing, despite the fact he was born in California. Of his 10 PGA Tour victories, 9 of them come in the spring or later in the season. So this is when we kind of start to see him get going a little bit. And I know the price isn't great, but you sometimes you go with the player and not the price, and sometimes the price and not the player. I'm going with the player, not the price, with Xander. And then Ludvig Åberg, who has now kind of gone down to about 14 or 16 to 1. He was 18 to 1 earlier this week at DraftKings. A lot was expected of him last year at Quail Hollow for the PGA. And then he missed the cut on a course that's super ideal for him. 4 top 5s in his last 5 starts coming into this week. I think he'll benefit maybe from that week off, because we were kind of surprised he didn't play Doral last week. Maybe there was a reason for that. And last year, of course, he won at Torrey Pines at the Genesis. And that has a strong correlation with Quail Hollow. So Ludvig Åberg for me. Ricky Fowler, who is as high as 44 to 1 here in Las Vegas. T9 at Doral, 2nd straight top 10. He's inching closer to clinching that U.S. Open spot. He's 52nd in the world. You got to be in the top 60. 14 years ago, actually, he won his first PGA Tour event right here at Quail Hollow. And then the last 2, Kurt Kitayama, 50 to 1. Slow start last week at Doral. T9, he finished after he was 66 after round 1 out of 72 players. Back-to-back top 10s, 4th on ball striking, 9th total driving. And Nikolai Højgaard, 55 to 1. T23 last week, but Matt, you mentioned it, distance, 2nd in the field in distance, 6th for strokes gained off the tee. So the 5 we got, Schauffele, Åberg, Højgaard, Kitayama, Ricky Fowler this week. And placement markets will be up, of course, at vsin.com/picks tomorrow.
If you're driving along in the car, don't worry. We'll recap all the picks at the end of the show. And as Wes said, if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, you can see all those in written form over there at vsin.com. When we come back, we'll get Kelley's plays, we'll get my plays, and then we'll start talking about the guys we didn't have in the card. Okay, we got Wes's plays, and again, if you are a VSiN Pro subscriber, you'll be able to get those over on the picks page on vsin.com. And if you're not, we got specials running all the time. So go in, take advantage of what we got going on over there. It's not just golf. Obviously, it's every single sport out there, every single day, every single season. Be sure and take advantage of all the stuff that we got going over there at vsin.com. Okay, Kelley Bydlon. So you threw in the stats that matter to you. You get some results from your model. And where did you decide to settle?
I'm excited to talk about betting this event this week, fellas, because I constructed
you now? It couldn't be because you're coming off of an outright, is it? You always got a little pep in your step whenever you're coming off of an outright.
It's a little bit of that, Matt, a little bit of that, but how about this? There's no way I can repeat. There's no way I can hit back-to-back outrights because I didn't bet an outright this week. How about that? And I know you're thinking, oh, that's boring, but don't worry, I'm going to walk you through it. I have not looked at these markets in a long time, fellas. I settled in the winner without market. I think that the top end of this field is full of just class players. You brought up Rory. It's like 30% of his career wins, Wes, have come at this course. He dominates Quail Hollow. Like, I think that number is fair for him. Xander Schauffele, I think I would be right there with you. We've tried to take a stab at him this year. I think Xander's going to win soon. He's playing great, incredible golf. Cameron Young, we just see what he's doing. We've seen what Matt Fitzpatrick is doing. So no Scottie Scheffler this week. The books are giving you, and multiple of them are doing this, DraftKings, FanDuel, all have a winner without McIlroy, Young, Schauffele, and Fitzpatrick market. Went over to Data Golf, just like, let me see what Data Golf's going to give me as far as what the win percentage is combined for these guys. It's about 32% combined when you combine all four of those guys. Now, look, I think for more advanced golf bettors out there, guys that are going to be really sticklers when it comes to the betting math, is there better ways of chopping up these bets from shopping outrights with tons of books available to you and blending it with top fives and top tens? Yeah, probably. But you know what? I'm taking four guys out of the picture in a 72-man field, and then I'm betting into odds this way. And you know what? It's twofold. It's not only the win equity that I think those four guys chew up at the top, it's some of the names that I became attracted to wanting to bet this week that are very boomer bust players. And I think this is a way then, if you want to play them in the outrights, that's fine, because there's a lot of these guys that we often talk about that we say, you know what, I'm going to bet an outright on them and that's it, or an outright in a top five, not covering it with a top 20 or playing a tournament matchup because they can be real ice cold too. These are the group of guys that I'm kind of targeting to bet in there. So yeah, I'm hoping that, which also means I'm really betting a top five or a top 10 because I got four guys that I have to plan that might be finishing ahead of them, right? So I got four players that I bet on in the winner without McIlroy, Young, Schauffele, and Fitzpatrick market. I will start with one you named, Wes. I did Kurt Kitayama. Much worse number than what you're at. You're at 50-1. I got 30-1. But I think Kitayama is a great example of this, right? The ball striking's back. One of those great guys off the tee on approach. Will the putter be there? It has been recently. Is it going to stick around? The around the green play isn't great. Just a guy that we have seen win. We've seen the guy fail real badly at times too, right? So this is kind of where I'm going with these boomer bust guys. Kitayama is on that list. Sam Burns is on that list. I also played a top 20 with Sam Burns as well. I know this is Matt's guy. I'm interested to see if he's on his card as well. Starting to play a lot better here, though, recently. T38 last week, a 16th at the Heritage, 7th at the Masters, T21 at Houston. He's starting to put together some really good finishes and have some good results at this course, top 20s each of the last 2 years. So I went Sam Burns in the winner without market, and then I did also play a top 20 with Sam Burns. I am pretty confident in him this week. Other names in the winner without market, Chris Gotterup, going back to him. We've played him a lot this year. Still, he's got a lot of wins, 3 wins in his last 18 events. Didn't get it done for us last week, but this is another course just like last week. Distance matters so much. I think these are guys you can look at. Gotterup, and then the last one, Gary Woodland. We played him last week. I'm going to go right back to him. That was painful to watch last week. He was right up there near the top of the leaderboard after 2 rounds. The approach game fell apart on the weekend. I'm going to go with more what have we seen over the past month, 6 weeks of his play than just last weekend. But I think all of those guys wouldn't be shocked if they finished near the bottom of the leaderboard, but I think also very capable of finishing at the top of the leaderboard. Sam Burns, 25-1, Chris Gotterup, 29-1, Kurt Kitayama, 30-1, and Gary Woodland, 45-1, all in that winner without market. And then the only other bet, I brought up Sam Burns, top 20. Only other guy I bet, Adam Scott, top 20, even money, going right back to him. Checks the box with the driving distance, very solid on approach. Great with the long iron play and has put together some really quality finishes. He had a great weekend last weekend at the Cadillac.
Yeah, I share a couple with you, share one with Wes as well. And I'll admit this was very close to being single bullet Rory week for me. Everything just points to Rory. Yep. That said, it's still a loaded field and one person wins a golf tournament. I did it in the Masters last year. I haven't done it since. And I didn't do it this week. And if he ends up going and winning this thing by 3 or 4, I'll feel stupid again, like I did last week, but didn't end up going there. So, Wes, I started with one of the guys you have on your card, and I went with Ludvig. I mean, listen, so I run, especially if you're new to us over on VSiN and watching us over there, I'll run models at multiple different sites. I take those, I blend them all together and kind of like get a aggregate result of all the models, or like Ludvig's second to Rory in this field to me, even ahead of Cam Young with some of the stuff that I put in. And so it was, for me at the 18-1, like Wes mentioned, that's out there, I had to play Ludvig. Now, the question about the killer instinct, that can he put 4 rounds together? I think that's all valid. I honestly do. But it's just the talent and the course fit and all of that everything Wes already mentioned. I just, I couldn't get past it. So let's hope the model pays off this week as I started the card with Ludvig. And yes, Kelley, Bydlon, I have 2 vibe plays this week, which I normally don't do, but I have 2 vibe plays. And so I'll get to both of those, not in order of odds, but Sam Burns is one. He is starting to kind of look like Burns again. If you see, he has gained on approach the last 4 tournaments where he had just completely lost the irons there for a while. And he's actually gained off the tee in 5 of 6 where he was spraying it there for a while. And so I think we're starting to get the better version of Sam Burns, and a guy that I believe if he's not just terrible around the greens, can really play his way into contention here on this tournament. Kind of sneaky long, by the way. One of those guys that you don't think about being long, but is sneaky long as well. The other vibe play, and you can find kind of in the 50-ish something, 56-1 actually here in Vegas. I'm going to try to be ahead of Justin Thomas. What I saw last week is a dude that still finished T23 losing nearly 6 strokes with the putter. That is hard to do. I mean, it is insane that you can finish T23 and lose 6 strokes with a putter. And if he can just figure out what's going on, I think he is going to be, he's another guy kind of sneaky long. You can see right there, as good around the greens as anybody there is in the game. And look, I just need a spike iron week. Yeah, he's been hit and miss for sure. You can see it almost alternates weeks with gaining with the irons or not. But at 50+1, this is not like I'm betting this at a 12-1 or 13-1. I'll take some variance here with a guy that's way out at.
You're also getting a major champion who won on this golf course, the PGA Championship back in 2017.
So kind of a vibe play, but I think Justin Thomas, I'm going to try to be ahead of him when I'm getting 50-something to 1. He even finishes good at this event. I think we're not going to get that anymore. I think he's going to be in the 30s and 40s. And so I'll take that. Chris Gotterup and Nikolai Højgaard round out the card for me here from an outright perspective. I told you I have long guys on the card. It's just a whole long card for me this week. Højgaard, 11th in the kind of 11th in the aggregate from the model perspective. Gotterup was inside the top 10 in a couple of different versions, kind of outside the 15, whatever kind of aggregates there in the 12, 13 range. But another bomber, another guy that if you look on the approach numbers there, bad week last week, but outside of that, really gets it done with the irons, usually gets it done with the putter as well. So you can find him as high as 45-1 if you're in an MGM market. I think that number is just not taking in his win equity. So 45-1 there on Gotterup. Xander top 10. He's just a top 10 machine. Xander's just a top 10 machine. Xander top 10. I also have the Adam Scott top 20 at even money. You can find that at MGM if you're in MGM market. And I'm going to play Alex Fitzpatrick in a top 20 at plus 265. Guys, I mean, granted, I understand that he's not playing all of the tournaments that these guys are in weaker fields or something, but he came out as 13th in the model, aggregate in the model.
He can play.
He's fairly long. He's averaging 306 off the tee. He doesn't make a lot of bogeys. So I'm asking for a top 20, Wes.
I think you're going to get it because he proved he can play and followed it up top 10 last week at Doral.
Yeah, I'm looking for a top 20 out of Alex. Yes, the other Fitzpatrick guy. The other Fitzpatrick, plus 265. You ain't getting plus 265 top 20 on Matt Fitzpatrick, but you can get it on Alex. When we come back, we'll review all of these real quick and talk about the guys that didn't make our card. Why don't we have Rory? Why don't we have Cam Young? Why don't we have Matt Fitzpatrick and some of these other guys that are absolute crushers here on Long Shots? Welcome back here on Long Shots. And Wes, I do want to get to, like we said, some of these big names we didn't play. You said Cam Young's been great to you, didn't make the card. Rory, obviously an amazing fit, didn't make any of our cards. Matt Fitzpatrick, one of the hottest players on tour, didn't make any of our cards from an outright perspective this week. For me, some of it was a blend of price. Some of it was a blend of like, some of these other guys were just popping way higher given the odds that are attached to them and all of that. Like I said, I considered the Rory one bullet, but ultimately decided to spray a little bit.
Yeah, a couple I didn't play in the outright, and one I am going to follow you guys on. I am going to play Adam Scott in that placement market, top 20, and maybe the pressure is going to be off Adam Scott, too, because he clearly now at that T4, he's in like the top 40 in the world rankings or just outside of it. He's going to be in the U.S. Open because he still had he would have had to qualify. So maybe the pressure's off. It's like, okay, just go win at a place I've played well in the past. So he didn't make it. Viktor Hovland, I keep trying to figure this guy out, but the problem is he keeps trying to figure himself out. And he constantly tinkers. Like, he'll show you moments of brilliance. Like, he had a great final round at the Masters, had a great final round at the Rouse, 6 under par, but man, He doesn't avoid bogeys well enough, and he gets too many bad scores on that card, even though I think he's a great fit for this course because he tends to be better on like those classical tree line type designs and, where he won at Muirfield Village at the Memorial a few years ago. And this should be right in his wheelhouse. So Viktor Hovland was one that didn't make it. Minwoo Lee, certainly will be considered because of obviously his distance off the tee. For me, he's just been a little bit inconsistent lately. So if you play Minwoo, might be better served to go in a placement market type of deal. And then Ryan Gerard, who was in contention last year, I want to say he finished 3rd or 4th last year in the PGA, but maybe he peaked earlier in the year. So I need to see a little bit more form out of Ryan Gerard, but he would certainly be a placement market consider.
I'm glad you brought up Minwoo. I was going to bring him up. Kelley, a guy I played last week and did model very well for me. Obviously, anytime you put in driving distance, that Minwoo Lee is going to pop for you or whatever. But I'm kind of starting to wonder if he's more of just a try to find an advantageous matchup, try to find like a 3-ball you like or something, whatever. The win equity, I mean, he's only won once over here. I think we kind of fall in love with some of these guys, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody else. Like, he's fun to watch play. He's got a good personality, all these, all the things like that. But I mean, he's won one time over here. And if you look, the consistency, like Wes just said, is not there at all. And so I think I got wrapped up a little bit too much in Minwoo and might have to I still want to play him. Obviously a great DFS guy or something like that if you're trying to round out a lineup and all those things. But I don't know really what the win equity is with a guy that with the irons, at least it seems like 2 times a tournament, like hits one in the damn trees with his iron. So it's just like, I don't know what the win equity is.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you guys brought him up. It's someone I thought was going to, I kind of had in mind going into the week. I think you said that too, Wes. It's kind of someone, okay, you're thinking course fit here. This is a course that should work well for Minwoo, but there's a couple of these guys, I'll be honest, right, as soon as I pulled this up, right? First of all, he rated out way lower for me than I even would have guessed, kind of dug into that, and it's, okay, you pulled this up. Boom, boom, boom. 3 weeks in a row. He hasn't found the consistency on approach. And with how much of what we model and what we weigh and what we find important, the approach game matters so much. And it's great that he can bomb the ball and it's great that he can be a great putter and he's great around the greens. But if you're going to be that inconsistent on approach, it's just tough to really get behind those guys like that too often. I think Goddard falls in this category a little bit too. I think he's a little bit more consistent than Minwoo, but I think you can feel real confident in those guys when I see a couple back-to-back weeks of like, hey, the irons are working right now. They got those locked in. The other parts of the game are all bonuses at that point, but I need to see that, I think, before I jump in with a Minwoo Lee again. And then the other guy I'll bring up real quick, well, the top of the board, I'll hit on quick. I think all 4 of those guys, and then I'll include Ludvig. Ludvig was my top 5 was extremely clear this week. It was Ludvig 5th, and those other guys, those top 4. I think it is a very, very good chance the winner is coming from that. I am just avoiding betting them. I've got so much respect for all 4 of those guys. Ludvig just not included in that, so I'll be kind of rooting against him, unfortunately, or just stay out of my guy's way would be nice, Ludvig. But those are my thoughts kind of on those. And then Patrick Cantlay, he was the one that I got closest to including this week. I had him on the card last week. He withdrew with an illness last week before the Cadillac. didn't play him. Once I got started comparing stuff, numbers weren't as great as what I was seeing odds-wise last week on him as he was this week. I think he's a good top 20 play. I think the one thing with Cantlay, like you brought it up about Sam Burns, Matt, Kelley, I think, has lost a little distance too over the past couple years, and it's just where we're kind of looking at yardage wise, where the guys I'm really trying to keep my eye out on. Patrick Cantlay's distance was kind of right in that range, right below where I kind of wanted it to be. So yeah, I ended up taking him off the card, but was very close.
55th in this 72-person field, as far as driving distance for Patrick Cantlay. Wes, one of the guys that, I think anybody that if they formulated their model anywhere close to us, you're going to see Jake Knapp towards the top. None of us have him on the card. I mean, he is 7th in my in my model this week. Burned me last week. By the way, guys, just 10 seconds. Another withdrawal on the guy that I played in one and done. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, I can't even put into words. Like, I can't even believe this. But a guy that's going to model out well for you. Again, for me, DFS where you can have multiple lineups, like, sure, whatever, but include him in 10% of your lineups or whatever. 15, and if he withdraws, you're not dead because you still have 10 other lineups, 12 other lineups that are live. But I don't know if I'm willing to fire on him again this week, because if whatever was bothering him last week is bothering him still this week, Wes, like, he's just going to withdraw again because he's going to try to be ready for the major.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And he was actually a play that I actually cashed out of because we heard that he's got that tape on his wrist and he's just walking the course and he's not taking any swings. So he certainly fits the profile in terms of a lot of those bombers that we listed, Sudarshan Yelamaraju, another guy, Christopher Reitan out of Norway, who's played very well. Yeah. So a lot of these guys fit. I think Knapp is a little bit higher class right now, a little bit more proven than maybe those other two guys I listed. But it's like, when are they going to strike? These guys, I think, eventually are going to win, but is it going to be at a signature event? Is it going to be at a big event like this, or is it going to be like an alternate event, like the Myrtle Beach Classic, which, by the way, depending on when you're watching this, that preview will be up Wednesday at vsin.com. That is the alternate event to the Truist Championship. So did want to get that in. Brooks Koepka, the headliner at the field in Myrtle Beach this week.
I know a lot of you guys are in one and done pools out there. Listen, if you have Rory available, it's a big payday for first place. A lot of people probably already used him, so you're not going to be up against a whole bunch of people here. My guess is he's probably only available in 40% or less of the pools that are still available out there. I mean, Kelley, you and I will have a decision to make a little bit later today on who we're going to go with. But I mean, I think if Rory is still available, even if you don't want to bet him outright, you can at least have a sweat on a guy who is the favorite in the tournament. And it's probably not going to cost you. Like I said, I bet you a lot of teams have used him already.
Yep. Yeah, I bet you're right. I have him plenty of mine. I think if I had him available, I would. Otherwise, I think, Matt, I'm looking a little bit further down the board just because of I think so much of the win equity is at the top of the odds board. I think it's maybe worth taking a shot on some of these guys that are a little bit more boom or bust that I kind of crafted my card after this week. I'll probably be using one of those guys, and it might be a bit of a longer shot name for a signature event, but I'm okay with that because I think they can get it done here.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting week, I think, from a one and done perspective, because we are getting to the point where a lot of big guns have been used, right? So if you kept any in the holster, good for you. Never talking you off of Cam Young, never talking you off of Ludvig, any of that, Xander, all those guys. But again, this is getting the time where you're gonna go out and try to win your one and done pool for sure. And so, guys, again, we'll be back next week with the PGA Championship. Scottie Scheffler will be back in the field. If we look ahead right now, Scottie Scheffler about 4-1, Rory a little under 7-1, and then we kind of get into these guys again that are kind of forgotten. Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, come in as your third and fourth choice over there in the field. Xander, Cam Young, Matt Fitzpatrick. You can get Cam Young at 16-1 right now. If you are so inclined. You are not going to get 16-1 if he has a great finish this week.
I might be inclined. The number wasn't as good, but that's still pretty good for this player.
Yeah, I mean, right now, again, you're getting a little bit of a discount because DeChambeau and Rahm are in the field, but I would take Cam Young over both of those guys right now for sure. So if that's where you want to go. Guys, appreciate you being along with us. If you have not done so already, subscribe, rate, review. We're over on YouTube. We're on your audio as well. Good luck on all your bets.